Can you help us understand how character creates plot?
I think that when we focus on plot, we get stuck. But when you focus on your protagonist's primal desire, the story can move in non-linear ways. And especially when you get into the second act, this is where writers frequently get stuck. Every writer has this experience of getting really excited by a premise, and you jump in and you start writing it, and the first act you're like, oh my God, this is really working. And then at some point it feels like you're sort of moving characters around on a chessboard. You're trying to keep them interesting. Look at When Harry Met Sally. It's so simple. It's so elegant. It's so brilliant. And the dramatic question: can men and women be friends? And so you think about the end of the first act. Harry is the protagonist. And Harry and Sally run into each other again in the bookstore. And he's just gotten a divorce, or he's going through a divorce, and she's just broken up with somebody. And so she says, would you like to go out for dinner? And he says, sure, I've never gone out with somebody that I've never been friends with a woman I've been attracted to. So he's still arrogant and kind of a jerk, and she goes, thanks, Harry. And so notice that even though she invites him, he's the protagonist in the story, and he's the one who makes the decision that he can't go back on. I'm going to go out with Sally as friends. The reluctance is that he's going against his false belief, which is men and women can't be friends. Okay, so that begins the journey of the second act. And now what happens is we have that whole fun and games, as Blake Snyder calls it, and they're getting along great. It's really working as friends. And then that leads to the moment in the diner, that famous diner scene where she has she fakes the orgasm, which is so brilliant because this is where your protagonist has this sort of false hope. It's going to work. We can be friends. And in some way, they're still acting out this sort of sexual relationship without having a sexual relationship. But then it's New Year's Eve. We get to the midpoint, and this is where your protagonist experiences temptation between what they want and what they need. Ding, ding, it's 12 o'clock, everybody's kissing, and they suddenly realize, my God, we're falling in love, but we have to be friends. Brilliant. So the story moves in a new direction. And then now they're suffering. They can't maintain this sexual tension anymore. So what do? They set each other up with their best friends. The story moves in a new direction, and the best friends end up falling in love with each other. And now we're witness to true love, and now it's excruciating because you're always the last person to know. They're in love with each other, but they're so committed to this idea of friendship that they're not willing to betray that idea. And that leads to the end of the second act, where she's heartbroken because her former boyfriend is getting married, and Harry comes over to comfort her, and they sleep together. And so the question, can men and women be friends, the answer is no, they can't. But what you can do is, in the act 3, you can integrate the two. So we can be friends, but we also need to find a way to be lovers and still be companions. And that moves you into the third act. So what you'll notice with Harry is that the desire never changes. His relationship to his desire is constantly changing. Okay, so I'll give you an example. Let's say you've got Bill, who asks Sally out on a date because he wants connection. That's the primal desire. I want connection. He asks Sally out on a date. Then he asks Sally to marry him because he wants connection. And so he gets married. And then he has an affair because he wants connection. And then he gets a divorce because he wants a connection. And then he goes back to Sally and says, I made a terrible mistake, because he wants connection. In other words, story isn't about, will Bill find connection? Story is about, will Bill reframe his relationship to what true connection means, which is, until I'm connected to myself, it's not possible to have connection with others. It's the same thing with Harry. Harry believes that men and women can't be friends, and he's correct. But what he doesn't realize is that when he falls in love, what he can have is he can have a lover that is also his best friend. So he thinks you can only have one or the other, but until he's able to surrender this sort of false belief, he's not able to integrate the two. And that's when he realizes at the end of the story, I don't want to be away from my best friend for one more minute.
So going back to what we talked about in the beginning of the interview, which was finding truth, what is the truth for Harry and what is the truth for Sally?
So the truth, that's a good question. How do I answer this? The truth is, in any well-told story, both characters are right. Okay, and this is the challenge in telling a story, is that story is an argument. I know it sounds dry, but story is really an argument. Can men and women just be friends? That's the argument. And the storyteller's job is to play both sides with equal integrity. All right? And so the truth is about taking the argument and exploring the opposing argument. That's what the whole movie is about, is exploring the opposing argument of we can be friends, but what's going to happen is that we are going to become increasingly attracted to each other, reaching this sort of supersaturation point where they have fallen in love but haven't yet consummated it. And so until they let go of this idea, which is really just it's really just a sort of something they're doing to protect themselves from opening their heart. Remember, because every story ultimately is about self-love, which is allowing myself. One act of self-love is to allow myself to be loved, and so that's what happens in the third act. The third act is about synthesis or integration, where Harry realizes that the only way that I can have my friend, well, not the only way I can have my friend, but I'm no longer willing to just be friends. I actually have fallen in love with this person, and now I need to take the difficult choice to let go of my limiting belief, which is that men and women can't be friends, and he's able to fall in love.
And so not just finding love in a relationship, but each one, Harry and Sally, need to learn how to love themselves?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Otherwise, so both characters are transformed at the end. The protagonist is typically the character that has the largest change, which is Harry. So when he surrenders his false belief that men and women can't be friends, he's able to integrate the two ideas that we can be friends. We must be friends in order to be lovers.
And how does Sally's need to love herself manifest?
Well, she's not the protagonist. I don't know that Sally changes as much as Harry. I think that she realizes that she's in love with Harry at the end of the second act. She's got that, they've made love, she's got that big smile on her face, and he bolts. And so the act three, the big change is for Harry to come around and let go of his fear of commitment in order for them to be united.